Hello everyone. So for this session, I will discuss the medical technology education in the Philippines. So included in this topic are the following key concepts. So we have the medical technology historical perspectives. So that means we will have a little background on how the medical technology education started in the Philippines. Also, we have here the medical technology pertinent laws and CHED memorandum orders or the CMO. And in particular, we will discuss the Republic Act 7722 or the Higher Education Act of 1994. And also, we have the regulations and other laws related to the medical technology practice. Now, let's have our learning objectives. So at the end of this lesson, you are all expected to determine the importance of establishing a medical technology school, discuss the relevance of achieving accreditation levels, analyze the transformative learning taking place in the Philippine medical technology educational system, and lastly, examine the laws, rules, and regulations governing the medical technology educational system in the Philippines. So now let's have the different words and also their meaning. So number one, we have the accrediting agency. As you can see, listed in here are the PAASCO and the PACOCOA. So these two accrediting agencies are the two major agencies in the accrediting agencies in the Philippines. So I'm referring more particularly in the Philippine Medical Technology Program. So this PAASCO stands for Philippine Association of Accrediting Schools, Colleges, and Universities. For PACOCOA, we have the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities Commission on Accreditation. And also, you might encounter another accrediting agency, the ISO. So this one stands for International Organization for Standardization. Also, we have another term, the Commission of Higher Education. So this is the CHED. So this CHED, this is the highest government agency, and its function is, of course, to govern, supervise, recognize, and monitor the medical technology program. And we have the CMO number 14 series of 2006. So this one provides the standard rules and regulations governing the establishment of your course. So what's your course? So it's the Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology, or oftentimes it is referred to as the BSMT. And we have another term here. So the BMLS. So that's the Bachelor in Medical Laboratory Science. Also, we have the medical advancement. So it's the application of the latest technology in the practice of medical profession. So you have to take note that you are working or you will be working in a clinical laboratory wherein you will be utilizing machines in order to analyze the samples of different patients, right? So it's just proper that you are knowledgeable enough on the latest technologies and advancements and innovations that take place in your field in order to know the usage and also the functions and the principles of this medical advancement. Next one, we have the medical technology education. Again, it's the BSMT or BMLS. Another one, we have the postgraduate degrees in medical technology. So this one, the Master of Science in Medical Technology. And currently, we have the Doctor of Philosophy in Medical Technology. Next one, the Public Health Program. So some schools offer this course. So the Bachelor of Science in Public Health, and also the Schools of Medical Technology. So this refers to the Schools of Medical Technology duly recognized, of course, by the CHED. Next one, we have transformative education. So this one is the process of incorporating academic strategies for the new curriculum in Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology. It's like transforming the education, the BSMT program, by incorporating new standards, new regulations, or new curriculum. Next one, we have transition of medical technology education. So transition, so it's a process of transforming the medical technology curriculum from the traditional one, so traditional educational system, into the one that complements now the K-12 program. Now, let's take a look at the historical perspectives of the medical technology education and practice in the Philippines. So, I know that you already have an idea about this one because for sure, you have discussed this together with your teacher in your first year subjects, particularly the Intro to Medical Technology. So, just a review, the practice of medical technology was introduced by the 26th Medical Infantry of the 6th U.S. Army. And as what you can see here, the first clinical laboratory in the Philippines was established in Quiricada Street, Santa Cruz, Manila, and that was the Manila Public Health Laboratory, which offered training programs to high school graduates as early as February 1944. And in June 1943, the U.S. Army left the country. So what they did is they endorsed the medical technology practice and also the laboratory to the Department of Health. However, during that time, the Department of Health rendered the laboratory non-functional. However, 2 years after, specifically in October 1, 1945, there was this person, Dr. Pio de Roda. So Dr. Pio de Roda was one of the staffs of the clinical laboratory during that time. So he organized Manila Public Health Laboratory from the remnants of the deserted laboratory when the U.S. Army left the country. And that's together with the Manila City Health Officer then, it was Mariano Icasiano, who served as the assistant of Dr. Pio de Roda. Next one, in 1947 also, together with Dr. Prudencia Santa Ana, Dr. Pio de Roda organized a training for the high school graduates who wanted to work as medical technologists. However, you have to take note that this training did not last long. And also, there was no period of training that was set and there were no certificates given that time. And in 1954, still the same people, Dr. Pio de Roda and Dr. Prudencia Santa Ana, they produced training syllabus. So particularly, it was Dr. Prudencia Santa Ana who produced this training syllabus. And this training provided a 6-month program for individuals who wanted to work in the laboratory. And also in this time, there is already a certificate of completion that was given. And also, I just want to mention that the first Bachelor of Science degree course in medical technology was offered by the PUC or the AUP. So PUC stands for Philippine Union College. So that is now Adventist University of the Philippines. And the training was held in Manila Sanitarium. So since the first school that offered medical technology course is PUC, their first graduate of course is Jesse Umali. So he is now a gynecologist and the owner of Omega Laboratories. Now let us have the historical perspectives of medical technology education in the Philippines. So we have this person, her name is Willa Hilgert Hedrick. So Willa Hilgert Hedrick. So she was the one who initiated the formal education of medical technology in the Philippines. So she was from Portland, Oregon. So let me write it here. So Portland, Oregon, and she was born on March 4, 1925. And she is also a Seventh-day Adventist. And she earned her bachelor's degree in medical technology in Loma Linda University, where she subsequently taught the course. And also, she finished her master's degree in education in Wright State University. Miss Hedrick has a husband. Okay, he was named Elvin Hedrick. Elvin Hedrick was a medical internist and also a missionary in the Philippines. So Miss Hedrick and her husband served as missionaries in the Philippines for more than 10 years. And because of this, they noticed the lack of competent laboratory technologists who could support the medical missionaries as well as the laboratory tests and services to confirm their diagnosis. That's why they put up the Philippine Union College, or now the Adventist University of the Philippines, which is again the first medtech school in the Philippines which offered training and education for Filipino students wanting to become medical technologists. Next one, we also have here in the UST or University of Santo Tomas. So we have these people, Dr. Antonio Gabriel and Dr. Gustavo Reyes. So they are from the Faculty of Pharmacy in UST and they offer the medical technology as an elective subject to 4th year and 5th year BS Pharmacy students. So when we say elective, that means it's just an optional course. So you can choose to do it or not. So you just have to take note that there are different classifications of courses. So it could be core courses or again, elective courses. So when we say core courses, that means these are mandatory courses that you must study to meet the requirements of your program. However, elective courses are the courses that you can choose, allowing you to study the topics that only interest you. So again, in UST, the medical technology education started as an elective subject for BS Pharmacy student. And it was this person, Reverend Father Lorenzo Rodriguez. He was the one who decided to offer it as a course because of the popularity of medical technology among pharmacy students. And also, we have here the following dates. So in June 1960, the permit for the internship program was issued. And also, it was in June 14, 1961, wherein the BSMT course was given full recognition. And after that, many schools already followed to offer BSMT courses. And also, the University of the Philippines offered a similar course, but again, the degree, as what I have mentioned earlier, was conferred as BS in Public Health. Now let's have the RA 7722 or the Higher Education Act of 1994. So this is an act creating the Commission on Higher Education or the CHED, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. So you have to take note that this law separates colleges and universities from the Department of Education or the DepEd, providing, of course, its own independence, having the right to practice academic freedom, and exercise the policies granted for its benefits. And also, I would like to mention that this Republic Act consists of 21 sections. And I know that this is a law, so this is very technical, so some parts are already self-explanatory, so I would not elaborate them further. So let's have first the section 1, the title. So the title of this act is the Higher Education Act of 1994. So this was approved by the President of the Philippines, who was then President Fidel V. Ramos, and the CHED was created on May 18, 1994, through the passage of Republic Act 7722, or this again, Higher Education Act of 1994. Section 2, Declaration of Policy. So it is stated in this section that the state shall protect, foster, and promote the right of all citizens to affordable quality education at all levels and shall take appropriate steps to ensure that education shall be accessible to all. Also, in Section 2, the state shall likewise ensure and protect, again, academic freedom and shall promote its exercise and observance for the continuing intellectual growth, the advancement of learning and research, the development of responsible and effective leadership, the education of high-level and middle-level professionals, and the enrichment of our historical and cultural heritage. Another one still in Section 2. So the state-supported institutions of higher learning shall gear their programs to national, regional, or local development plans. Finally, all institutions of higher learning shall exemplify through their physical and natural surroundings the dignity and beauty of, as well as their pride in, the intellectual and scholarly life. Next one, we have the Section 3, which is the creation of the Commission on Higher Education. So in pursuance of the above-mentioned policies, the Commission on Higher Education is hereby created, hereinafter referred to as the Commission. So again, the Commission or the CHED shall be independent and separate from the Department of Education. And they will be attached to the Office of the President for administrative purposes only. Okay? And as well as they shall be both covering the public and private institutions of higher education as well as the degree granting programs in all post-secondary educational institutions, both public and private institutions. Now let's have the section 4 or the composition of the commission. So the commission shall be composed of how many members? So 5 full-time members, and during the transition period, which begins upon the approval of this Republic Act 7722, the President may appoint the Secretary of Education. So the DepEd Secretary, or was then the DEX Secretary, as an ex officio chairman of the commission. So for a period of 1 year. So again, he or she will be appointed by the President of the Philippines. So this term, this ex officio, is a Latin term which means by virtue of office or possession. So we use this term to describe a possession that someone automatically gains because of another job or position that she already holds. So for example, in this case, the Department of Education Secretary or the DepEd Secretary is also the ex officio chairman of the commission. So ex officio. Next one, still in the chapter 4. So the President shall appoint also a chairman of the commission and 4 commissioners. So 1 chairman and 4 other commissioners who will be holders of earned doctorates and who have been actively engaged in higher education for at least 10 years and must not have been candidates for elective positions in the elections immediately preceding their appointment. And also, they shall be academicians known for their high degree of professionalism and integrity, and who have distinguished themselves as authorities in their chosen fields of learning. And also, you have to take note that in no case shall any and all of the commissioners appoint representatives to act on their behalf. So currently, these are the people who hold the positions in the office of the chairperson and the commissioner. So we have the current chairman, Mr. Prospero E. De Vera III. Also, we have the 4 commissioners. We have Lilian A. de las Liagas, Perfecto A. Alibin, Ronald L. Adamat, and Aldrin A. Darilag. So 1 chairman and 4 commissioners. Now let's take a look at section 5, the term of office. So the President shall appoint the full-time chairman and the commissioners for a term of 4 years without prejudice to 1 reappointment. And the terms of the initial appointees shall be on a staggered basis. So take a look at this one. So for the full-time chairman, so we have 4 years, the next 2 commissioners 3 years, and the last 2 commissioners 2 years. And also, you have to take note that the commissioners shall hold office until their successors shall be given or be appointed with a position or be qualified. And if a member of the commission fails to complete his term, you have to take note that his successor shall be appointed also by the President of the Philippines. But take note of this one. The appointment will only cover the unexpired portion of the term. So that's for the term of office. Next one, section 6, rank and emoluments. So this refers to the salary or the compensations and the benefits that are given to the members of the commission. So the chairman and the commissioners shall have the rank of department secretary and undersecretary respectively. So take note of this one. The chairman will be again the department secretary, whereas the commissioners, the 4 commissioners, will be the undersecretary. secretary, and they shall receive the compensation and other emoluments corresponding to those of a department secretary and undersecretary respectively, and shall also be subject to the same disqualifications. Section 7, Board of Advisors. So there shall be constituted a Board of Advisors which shall meet with the Commission at least once a year to assist the Commission in aligning its policies and plans with the cultural, political, and socio-economic development needs of our nation, and also with the demands of world-class scholarship. So the Board of Advisors shall be composed of the following. So number 1, the Secretary of Education, Culture, and Sports as chairman. Also, the Director General of the National Economic and Development Authority as co-chairman. Also, the Secretary of Science and Technology, of Trade and Industry, of Labor and Employment, and the President of the FAAP and the President of FAPE. And also, another 2 additional members of the Board of Advisors may be appointed by the President upon recommendation of the Commission. Section 8, Powers and Functions of the Commission. So you have to take note that all in all, there are 15 powers and functions of the Commission as stipulated in RA 7722. So the Commission shall have the following powers and functions: formulate and recommend development plans, policies, priorities, and programs on higher education and on research. Recommend to the executive and legislative branches priorities and grants on higher education and research. Also, set minimum standards for programs and institutions of higher learning recommended by panels of experts in the fields and subject to public hearing, and enforce the same. Next one, monitor and evaluate the performance of programs and institutions of higher learning for appropriate incentives, as well as the imposition of sanctions such as but not limited to diminution or withdrawal of subsidy, recommendation on the downgrading or withdrawal of accreditation, program termination, or school closure. Next one, we have identify, support, and develop potential centers of excellence in program areas needed for the development of world-class scholarship, nation building, and the national development. Next one, recommend to the Department of Budget and Management the budgets of public institutions of higher learning, as well as general guidelines for the use of their income. Next, rationalize programs and institutions of higher learning and set standards, policies, and guidelines for the creation of new ones, as well as the conversion or elevation of schools to institutions of higher learning. And this is still subject to budgetary limitations and, of course, the number of institutions of higher learning in the province or region where this creation, conversion, or elevation is sought to be made. Next one, develop criteria for allocating additional resources such as research and program development grants, scholarships, and other similar programs, provided that these shall not detract from the fiscal autonomy already enjoyed by colleges and university. So that means when we say fiscal autonomy, it simply means freedom from outside control. So just like in this case, fiscal autonomy is a guarantee given by the Constitution to the Commission. So this fiscal autonomy is intended as a guarantee of separation, as what I have mentioned earlier, separation of powers and of independence of the Commission to other educational institutions or other commissions, or just like, for example, the independence of CHED from DepEd. Next one, direct or redirect purposive research by institutions of higher learning to meet the needs of agro-industrialization and development, devise and implement resource development schemes, administer the Higher Education Development Fund as prescribed in Section 10 hereunder, which will promote the purposes of higher education, review the charters of institutions of higher learning and state universities and colleges, including the chairmanship and membership of their governing bodies, and recommend appropriate measures as basis for necessary action. Next one, promulgate such rules and regulations and exercise such other powers and functions as may be necessary to carry out effectively the purpose and objectives of this Act, the RA 7722, and lastly, perform other functions as may be necessary for its effective operations and for the continued enhancement, growth, or development of higher education. Section 9, the Secretariat. So the Commission shall organize a Secretariat which shall be headed by an executive officer, and this is subject to the National Compensation and Position Classification Plan. And it shall fix the Secretariat's staffing pattern, determine the duties, qualifications, responsibilities, and functions, as well as the compensation scheme for the positions to be created upon the recommendation of the executive officer, and it shall also prepare and approve its budget. And also the Commission shall appoint the members of the staff upon the recommendation of the executive officer. Section 10, the Higher Education Development Fund. So a Higher Education Development Fund is referred to as the fund, okay, as stipulated in the law. So this is established for the strengthening of higher education in the entire country. So the government's contribution to the fund shall be the following. So the amount of 500 million pesos as a seed capital, the amount of 50 million pesos for the initial operation of the Constitution, the equivalent of 40% annual share on the total gross collections of the travel tax, the equivalent of 30% share of the collections from the professional registration fee, and the equivalent of 1% of the gross sales of the lotto operations of the PCSO, or the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office. And still, on Section 10, starting fiscal year 1995 and every year thereafter, government financing institutions identified and requested by the Commission may contribute to the fund an amount equivalent to not less than 3% but not more than 5% of their unimpaired surplus realized during the immediately preceding year. Next one, the fund shall have a private portion to be raised from donations, gifts, and other conveyances, including materials, equipment, properties, and services by gratuitous title. Section 11, Management and Administration of the Higher Education Development Fund. So the fund shall be administered by the Commission. So it's the administrator of the fund, and as an administrator of the fund, the Commission shall prepare the necessary guidelines for its use, subject to the following conditions. So number 1, no part of the seed capital of the fund, including earnings thereof, shall be used to underwrite overhead expenses for administration. Unless otherwise stipulated by the private donor, only earnings of private contributions shall be used for administrative expenses. The Commission shall appoint and organize a separate staff, independent administratively and budgetarily separate from the Commission Secretariat. And lastly, the fund shall be utilized equitably according to regions and programs. Section 12, the Technical Panels. The Commission shall reconstitute and or organize technical panels for different disciplines or program areas, and they shall assist the Commission in setting standards and in programs and institution monitoring and evaluation. The technical panels shall be composed of senior specialists or academicians to be appointed by the Commission. Section 13, Guarantee of Academic Freedom. So, as stipulated in the law, nothing in this act shall be construed as limiting the academic freedom of universities and colleges. In particular, no abridgment of curricular freedom of the individual educational institutions by the Commission shall be made except for 1. Minimum unit requirement for specific academic programs. Next one, general education distribution requirements as may be determined by the Commission, and specific professional subjects as may be stipulated by the various licensing entities, and no academic or curricular restrictions shall be made upon private educational institutions which are not required for chartered state colleges and universities. Section 14, Accreditation. So the Commission shall provide incentives to institutions of higher learning, public and private, whose programs are accredited or whose needs are for accreditation purposes. Section 15, Tax Exemptions. Any donation, contribution, bequest, and grant which may be made to the Commission shall constitute as allowable deduction from the income of the donor for income tax purposes and shall be exempt from donor's tax, subject to such conditions as provided under the National Internal Revenue Code as amended. Section 16, Authority. The Commission shall exercise such authority as may be deemed necessary within its premises or areas of operation to effectively carry out its powers and functions and to attain its objectives, provided that the Commission may seek the assistance of other government agencies for the proper implementation of this act. Section 17, Appropriation. So the amount of 500 million pesos is hereby authorized to be appropriated for the seed capital of the fund, and the additional amount of 50 million pesos is hereby authorized to be appropriated out of the funds in the National Treasury not otherwise appropriated, or out of the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation or the PAGCOR funds for the initial operation of the Commission. Section 18, Transitory Provisions. So let me just highlight the transitory body in this section, which shall be composed of the following. So the Secretary of Education, Culture and Sports, the Chair of the Senate Committee on Education, Arts and Culture, and the Chair of the House Committee on Education and Culture, and also a representative of each of the following associations. So first, the Association of Christian Schools and Colleges, the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines, or the SEAP, the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities. We also have the Philippine Association of Private Schools, Colleges, and Universities, the Philippine Association of State Universities and Colleges, and lastly, the Philippine Association of Private Technical Institutions. Section 19, Repealing Clause. Section 20, you have the Separability Clause, and Section 21, the Effectivity. Now let us have the regulations and other laws related to the medical technology practice. First, we have the CHED Memorandum Order number 9 series of 1998. So this CMO is another way of upgrading the medical technology educational policies and standards, and this one allows the medical technology education program to operate under the provision with full authority issued by the Commission. So this covers the policies on faculty, administrators, curriculum, instructional materials, library, research, laboratory facilities, internship requirement, particularly the number of hours of duties per section, and of course, admission requirements. And one important thing that you have to remember on this CMO is that all the books and references required for medical technology program or education and curricular offering are listed at the end of this CMO. So what is it again? The CMO 9 series of 1998. Next is CMO number 27 series of 1998. So this pertains to policies and standards on a curriculum designed for a common 2-year associate in health science education, or the ASE. And one of the rationales behind the CMO is to offer the ASE program in order to equip the undergraduate students with the experiences to function as healthcare providers. Next is the CMO number 6 series of 2008. So this was enacted to serve as a guidelines for accrediting laboratories intending to train medical technology interns. And its ultimate aim is to keep pace with the demands of global competitiveness and quality training for interns. Now, let's take a look at the transition of medical technology education. So as what you can see in here, the medical technology program included a general education with a required number of units per course. Then gradually, it changed when the ASE was implemented, so the Associate in Health Science Education. And some courses were also incorporated, so these are STS, also Health Economics, and Health Ethics. And finally, with the implementation of outcomes-based education, the curricular program offerings have been changed to be consistent with the latest CMO. So particularly the CHED Memorandum Order number 14 series of 2006. Now let's have the Senate Bill number 2722 or the Medical Technology Act of 2011. So this is an act regulating and modernizing the practice of medical technology or medical laboratory science in the Philippines. And also included in this bill are some provisions related to the medical technology education. So the medical technology or medical laboratory science course shall be at least a 4-year course, as stipulated again in the CHED policy standards and guidelines. And the said course shall be composed of general education and core and professional courses and a satisfactory internship program in accredited training laboratories. Also listed in here are the professional subjects of medical technology program. So we have hematology, clinical chemistry, microbiology, parasitology, blood banking or immunohematology, immunology and serology, clinical microscopy, histopathology and cytology, laboratory management, and lastly, the medical technology laws and bioethics. And also, you have to take note that it's the TPMTE which is authorized to change, remove from, or to add to the subjects listed in here, but still, it's subject to the approval of CHED. So when we say TPMTE, that stands for Technical Panel in Medical Technology Education. So speaking of which, we have the TPMTE members. So for the chairman, we have the president of the PASMEF. We also have the president of the PAMET, a representative from the Board of Medical Technology or from PRC, the Professional Regulation Commission, a representative from PAMET, and a representative from PASMEF. Now, what are the functions of TPMTE? So, in particular, this TPMTE shall assist the CHED in setting the policies, the standards, and the guidelines for medical technology program. And it may also assist the CHED in the implementation of these standards and these programs, also including the monitoring and the evaluation. So, for specific functions, number 1, to recommend the minimum curriculum required for the course of medical technology. Next, to determine and prescribe the number of students that will be allowed to take the medical technology course in each school, taking account, of course, the student-instructor ratio and, of course, the availability of facilities for instruction. And number 3, to recommend closure of medical technology school which are found to be substandard. Next, to require all medtech schools to submit annual report. So this annual report includes the total number of students and also the number of instructors, also the list of facilities available for instruction, also the list of recent graduates and new administration. And usually this is submitted, the annual report, this is submitted on or before the month of June. Okay, let me just write it here. On or before the month of June. Next one, for the function to inspect whenever necessary the different medtech schools in the country in order to determine whether a high standard of education is maintained in the said institution. And lastly, to promulgate prescribe and enforce such rules and regulations as may be necessary for the proper implementation of the foregoing functions. Now, what is the purpose of this CMTE, or the Continuing Medical Technology Education? So there shall be a program of continuing medical technology education conducted by the accredited professional organizations and other CMTE providers to enhance and maintain the proficiency of its members on current medical technology procedures and techniques. So it's not only updating, but of course to develop the proficiency of medical technologists. And also you have to take note that a medical technologist shall be required to undergo medical technology training and education program every 3 years, beginning from the issuance of his COR, or the Certificate of Registration. Next one, the postgraduate programs in medical technology. So first, we have the MSMT, or the Master of Science in Medical Technology. So only few schools of medical technology offer a postgraduate degree in medical technology, which is again the MSMT. And to name the schools, we have the University of Santo Tomas. We also have the Philippine Women's University. Next one, St. Louis University. Also the Manila Central University, the University of San Agustin, and Cebu Doctors University. And also, you have to take note that these universities have to meet and maintain high accreditation levels, usually level 2 or level 3, with a good performance ratings of about 80% in the medical technology licensure examination. Now, how about for the Doctor of Philosophy in Medical Technology? So like the MSMT, a Doctor of Philosophy in Medical Technology may include the following number of units. So 15 units of philosophy courses, 6 units of cognates or cognate courses, 9 units of thesis writing and seminar, 6 units of foreign language, and 24 units of major courses. However, you have to take note that the course offerings in this PhD for medical technology should focus on an in-depth understanding of the advanced technology in the diagnosis, prevention, and the treatment of diseases or infections. Next, let's have the accreditation program. So when we say accreditation, it's like one way or one requirement in any program offering to upgrade teaching methodologies and strategies. So what is accreditation? So how do we define this one? So accreditation is a procedure of checking and monitoring, particularly in this case, the BSMT program in all schools. It is also a voluntary submission for accreditation in which schools or institutions have the opportunity to improve and upgrade educational quality. And also, it's a concept of self-evaluation and judgment of educational pedagogy. And also take note that a school of medical technology has to be accredited first before it can offer the postgraduate program in either MSMT or Doctor of Philosophy in Medical Technology. And aside from that, one of the requirements is to have at least an 80% performance ratings in the past 5 years. Next one, what are the other requirements for accreditation? So of course, we have the faculty profile, the instruction, the laboratory, student services, of course, the library holdings, the tuition fees, the department budgets, and the philosophy goals and objectives of the program. And also, when we say accreditation, it also serves as the initial step for a school to achieve an autonomous status, also a Center of Development status, and a Center of Excellence status. Next one, what are the accreditation agencies? So again, as I have mentioned earlier, the two well-recognized accreditation agencies are the PAASCO and PACOCOA. Another thing, we also have the ISO, which is the International Organization for Standardization, which monitors the flow of operation of the program and also investigates the proper documentation of every assigned work or task. Also, this ISO, this caters the needs of institution, whether educational, industrial, or hospital, for setting quality objectives. And through ISO, the quality objectives can measure the performance of the products, the processes, the customer satisfaction, the human resources, and of course, the suppliers. Now let's go back to PAASCO and PACOCOA. So the PAASCO means Philippine Association of Accrediting Schools, Colleges, and Universities. This is regarded as the judge. So it's the judge in evaluating whether the school's purposes and objectives match and are comparative with the actual practice in the various areas, just like what I have mentioned earlier, like in the faculty, in the instructions, library, laboratories, also the physical plant of the school, the student services, the administration, and even the school and community extension services. How about this one, the PACOCOA? So this means Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities Commission on Accreditation. So this provides a formal recognition. So formal recognition to all schools that maintain and achieve excellent standards in their educational operations within the context of their aims, their missions and visions, and also their objectives. So in short, this PACOCOA accreditation enables the school to get identified based on the competency and performance in a particular field. So for the student, its benefit is it provides the student a better choice of quality schools, and also for the schools, it helps the schools to achieve and maintain educational effectiveness to its maximum level, and also enlist the cooperation of institutions of learning and professional associations in achieving the mission of advancing the interest of education. So those are the three main accrediting agencies. So these are my references. So I hope you learned something. Thank you very much.